Hello, it's SmallBizDavid, and welcome to what is happening to evolve into one of the most exciting business experiences that I have ever had. And if you follow me, you know that I am actively putting content together for what I am calling a digital video book, and it's a fascinating way to publish. And I say that because I actually started my professional career over 40 years ago, and when I was 24 years old, I bought a small publishing company. And the way that we published back in those days, as you can guess, are dramatically different than what is happening today. We've moved into the digital world today. That's point number one. I've taken it one step further because, quite honestly, I enjoy doing videos more so than I enjoy writing. 7 years ago, I actually self-published, literally self-published this book. How do you answer these 749 questions about your small business? And it was a wonderfully exciting experience. I literally took 100 days and stepped away from everything else that I was doing and had 100% focus on publishing this book, and literally did it in 100 days. From the time I organized my thoughts till I was actually holding up a copy, a manufactured copy. And I say manufactured because I made the manufacturing decisions. Since I had started my career as a publisher, I knew how to talk print. I knew how to talk to printers. And I had a friend, and we sat down, and we designed an interesting concept. It's an oversized book, 8.5 by 11. Not your common size book. It's a workbook, and it has a spiral binding in it. And it was specifically designed that way to be a workbook. Literally 749 questions with white space, so that the small business owner could say, wow, I never thought about that question. That question is really important to my business. I need to think about that and take some notes. Need to talk to my banker. Need to talk to my attorney, need to talk to my accountant, need to talk to William Rock. I hear he's a technology guru. I need to talk to Vivek. He's got some ideas that he can help me out with. And that was the intent. The only criticism I got about the book was that I did not give the answers to the questions. And it was designed not to give the answers to the questions. So I said, you know what? As I was kind of looking about 2 months ago, as I started to lay the plans for what my business was going to look like, what the strategy was going to be in 2015, I got the 7-year itch. I said, I need to take that book and I need to start giving some answers to the most important questions. A lot of the questions have stayed the same. Small business has built on certain fundamentals, but the things that have changed are marketing, how we communicate, technology, the new technologies that come up, and we're going to hear about some of that today. So I said, you know what, that's how I want to do it. And so I started looking to all my friends. I started looking to my community that I've been building for 6 months, Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus. I said, you know what, we have a tremendous amount of talent and expertise in our community. So I called upon friends, and I now have about 30 folks who are going to be contributing to the digital video book. We have 2 of them here today, and I've asked these 2 individuals to join because of all the folks that I've interacted with in the last couple years. These 2 gentlemen have a grasp of what they do, why they do it, as well as, if not better, than anybody else that I could communicate with. So the first and the topic, this chapter that we're introducing today, is small business technology. And interestingly enough, a small business in dealing in the technology world, we are put on a level playing ground with any business, any size business. Everybody basically uses the same fundamentals of technology, but they apply them a little bit differently based upon the needs of their specific business. Is that a fair statement to make, William Rock?
Yes, sir. Wow, what an intro. What an intro, sir. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show. Once again, I've really enjoyed being.
This is not a show today, William. This is a book today.
Book today. Thank you for the correction, sir. Again, it's been a pleasure actually being on the other shows, and now it's even a bigger pleasure being on the book.
Well, and William, let me set the stage a little bit better for you. I met William, I'm going to say at least a year ago, and we met on Google Plus, as millions of people do, and build relationships in Google Plus. And in the last couple months, I've called upon William and his expertise many, many times because he's got a grasp of technology from the very pure technology aspects of it, not just the concept of why, but the concept of how. How do you do it? How do you make it work? And some of the discussions that William and I have had in the last 3-4 months have been down the lines of, okay, website security. Every business has a website, I think. I actually asked that question, William, twice. I asked it to David Amerlin and I asked it to Jim Shankle. How important was a website in the marketing scheme of things and the strategy? And whereas a website is important, the concept of a website is important. The way that we execute, the way that I execute, I shouldn't say we necessarily, the way that I've executed in the last couple years is different than the first website that I built for myself and my company probably in the year 2000. So in 14 years, it serves a different purpose. And you know what? That has to be part of my strategy, that we live in a different world, that we communicate with folks differently. So, William, I don't have to tell anybody watching. Certainly I don't have to tell you, because your phone or you probably get pinged off the hook with, William, I got a security problem. Help me. What am I going to do? So what I'd like you to do is to take about 20 minutes and give an overview of the challenges of small businesses today as we step into 2015. Then what I'd like you to do in about 30 days, sometime in January, I'd like to do just a hangout with you where we really delve into some of those issues, and you can see as people get over the holiday season, because I know you do a lot of work in the e-commerce world, and right now e-commerce is it's where it's happening right now as we speak. We're in the holiday season. We're in the make or break season for a lot of folks, and security issues could absolutely destroy a business today who plays in the e-commerce world. So talk a little bit about what businesses are being challenged with and what your recommendations are.
Fantastic. I've got a slide deck that I brought with me, and I'll bring that up in a second, but I want to actually go back to your statement about having every business having or not having a website. And to be honest with you, I know 2 companies that don't even have a website, and they've been word of mouth, long-standing companies from way back in the day, but at the same time they are starting to realize, right, that they have to move into that direction for this new world of technology and the way that we use technology. But at the same time the fear is, if I get a website, then what's next? What do I have to do to make sure it stays safe? And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit today. But it's amazing that we've gone so far with technology. We have really come from a basic age of building a website that just did simple little functions to now complex internal algorithms that do certain functions like our financial accounting or our CRM for basically customer management. All of those things play a role in our daily lives, in our office, but they're also somehow tied back to that website, right? So how do we ensure the security, not just from a website level, but the entirety level? Looking at the company as a whole first, and then what's the architecture that needs to be built around that to satisfy the needs of that enterprise, or even just small business. So it could be a one-person operation, like we love to talk to, or even the bigger outfits. But at the end of the day, it's what do we do for our security? So let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick, and we're going to go back into. Give me a quick second here. All right, if you can go ahead and blue box me.
But put a white box around me or around Vivek.
Okay. Is that better?
No, all I'm saying is it protects you, but I absolutely can see your presentation,
Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's go dig in just a little bit here. Let's just start it out with kind of back to the questions. How do we actually answer some of these questions? And today it's going to be more focused on protection of the technology.
May I thank you real quickly?
Mm-hmm.
This is a customized presentation because you have the title of my book in the upper left-hand corner. Thank you. Thank you for the marketing plug.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So, as you can see, I have my little spider bot. He likes to get into a lot of trouble as well. And those are actually what are known in the internet as a simple hacker. We are used to actually hearing about a hacker being a physical person. But in the next stage, and even in the past, we've actually, from 2014, we'll kind of go into some of those aspects of how these spiders got through and what they're doing to other companies, and how we can actually do a little bit of protection to help us ease those pains, not fix them. I mean, that requires a lot of different levels of security based off of your industry, and a lot of planning. But at the simplest level is what we're going to be focused on today. We're not going to go really high level, just for the fact of the topic of the book, and we can go higher level next time we talk, David. How about that?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get through here. Let's start with the next. Oops, I was on the wrong screen. So let's get into the hacks. This is where it kind of got fun this 2014. The trend
wasn't fun for Target, eBay, and Sony.
No, it wasn't, but it was fun for the news agencies, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And actually fun and challenging for folks with your expertise.
Absolutely, especially the Sony Pictures one. That's going to be kind of a challenge for a lot of the security engineers in the industry worldwide. But at the same time, how did that happen? And there's a lot of different pieces of information out there. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it kind of goes back into even Home Depot. How did that happen? eBay got hacked, and they lost their ranking overnight. And there was two different things that happened with that one. They actually had a website that was just right before the actual Panda 4 algorithm hit for Google, which basically what that does for the search engine just kind of reorganizes the search results, and either ranks you higher or ranks you lower. In eBay's case, it was actually hit by two things. It was hit by a hacker previously, but then it actually lost over 80% of its organic ranking overnight from the Panda algorithm update. So they were one of those that got hit both ways. One was.
Let me ask a question. What was the financial impact of eBay losing? I mean, they've got a brand name that is very well known. So the fact that they lost some ranking, it's bad, but it didn't put them out of business.
No, and they're large enough. They're large enough to actually survive that type of a hit. I mean, imagine if you have hundreds and thousands of actually queries per second, and then 80% of those queries that are coming to your website are now gone. So I think that really was the substantial hit to them more than anything else. The hack, yeah, that's always going to happen. But then the double whammy came with Google actually dropping the rankings, and that kind of ties back into website security and how it also ties with Google, because they are not going to actually put something in their index that has a potential risk to a visitor, right? And so it protects both ways, but if that hack gets through to, say, a cell phone, as somebody just logged into eBay's website right through their cell phone, and that potential visitor was interrupted by a simple hack too, then what's the next level of risk for a company?
Okay, let me ask you the question. Please make a comment, William, on that question that you asked there. How many times have you heard of any small companies in the news? Please make a comment on that one.
Yes, I'd like to. So we just got finished talking about the big companies, and we hear those all the time in the news because, like we said in the beginning of the show, the news got a lot of great stuff.
Well, because we're customers of those establishments.
Absolutely, and so, well, with the small companies, you have to think of the new small, or not small, but it could be a startup. So you take it from a startup level. You've got a brand new company, right? And you've got a website up and running, and then you think everything is great, but then all of a sudden it goes down. But those are the elements in the news that didn't get covered. You don't hear about those small companies, mom and pops, or even mom and pop entrepreneurs actually being publicized in the news for being hacked. It's only the big ones, and I think it's unfortunate because that makes people think that they're still safe. Well, they're only hacking the big ones. They're not hacking the little ones. So I'm just a little fish, right? They don't really care about me. But going back to that first slide, it's not a person. I mean, it's a group of people that have written some programs to go out and do certain things and execute different commands. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it's a computer hacking a computer, right? So when we go back into the slides and we look at the bot, he's kind of, well, we'll look at that again, but we'll move on to the next slide. Did that answer your question, though, David?
Well, it did. We as small business folks, a hack to our systems are going to put us out of business. A hack could put us out of business. A hack to those large companies that you have there impacts us as consumers more so, than anything else. I mean, I see my bank is on that logo right there, and if my bank gets hacked, then there's a real threat to me as an individual, not necessarily as a small business, but as an individual, and that one, of course, causes concern. You don't want your bank to get hacked.
No, and the other thing is, when Home Depot actually got hacked, Target got hacked, and then Home Depot got hacked. What was not being publicized was there was reports that I had read right after the actual hack that there was about another like 999 other companies on the list of the same exact signature of the Target hack. So, and then the same thing came out in the news again about the Home Depot. And
William, you just gave me a flashback. I know we'll move on to the next slide. You just gave me a flashback. I remember, and I talked about it on the internet. Hangouts didn't exist then, and so I was doing live streaming back then. But probably about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, there was the biggest hack, if you will, into an email company. And they were one of the largest processors of email in the country, and they handled a lot of customer lists. That's what they did most. So they would handle very, very large customer lists. When that story came out, they actually announced the 30 companies that had their customer lists at this company.
Wow.
And lo and behold, William, there were 8 companies on that list that I dealt with. And I stopped taking emails from all 8 of those because you know what phishing is all about. That's what happens in the email world. and I stopped taking emails from those companies because I knew the next step was all the phishing expeditions, if you will, to go on.
All you have to do is click that little link in that email, don't you? And
Yep.
it's Hack City after that. Fantastic. It brings me to another piece with the email list and everything else, talking about the level of security. How easy is it to fix, and how easy is it not to fix? It depends on that industry. So, say for example, you were that email company, and you had these lists, and you had these responsibilities to protect the end user, but you didn't. You know, what's the risk of that, and how do you overcome after it's been taken over? And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So let me do this. I'm going to get to the next slide. My little cartoon back here was, I have to actually go something funny because we've been so serious at this point. So for 2015, basically what I'm saying is there's going to be a lot of chaos with this screen. Tech support, how can we help you? And do you have a plan? So constantly through our conversation, I've been repeating myself as far as, do you have a plan? And David, you've actually talked to me a lot about business planning, and we've talked a lot about it in the shows in the past. And as we're going through the cycle of teaching entrepreneurs and small businesses how to make it to the next level, how do we make that plan simplistic and build it into our business plan? You'll have a separate plan like we do with everything. You've got a marketing plan, you've got a sales and business, all these different things, then you've got your budgets, but don't forget about the simple things for 2015.
I don't know how much you're going to get into that precise discussion this morning, William, but depending upon how much you get into it, I would love for you to, in a month or so, let's talk about the elements of that plan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, kind of what has to be in that plan.
Yeah,
okay?
That'll be perfect. It's basically considered a disaster recovery plan.
Yep, that's what I didn't use those words, but I was thinking them.
That's something I've had to learn throughout my career, even as a SEO or IT director or security engineer, whatever my role had to be at the time. It was the knowledge that I had to learn, but it comes down to the same time is, if you don't have that disaster recovery plan in place, you're in a lot of trouble. And we'll talk about that in one of the other slides here. But I want to share with you a different kind of attack, and that attack is going to be kind of new for 2015. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's some nice security engineers that are starting to talk about a new technique, and that's a new technique for negative SEO, and that's also a big deal for e-commerce sites. So let's go through the scenario real quick. So we have a constant growing risk, and that we know that that's going to always be with us. We can't change that. So how do we adapt and move along with technology? And what kind of things do we have to do? And so this kind of goes back to even the disaster recovery plan, but making sure you have a good backup, right? That's the first starting point. But the next thing is, how do you know that backup is correct? What if your site goes down and backup is dead? So back to loss of revenue, right? We have to look at what's the impact. What happened when my site went down, and especially, for example, in this case, we just went through Black Friday, right? Now we're into the rest of the holiday shopping season, and me being the e-commerce geek that I am, I love to work with AdWords around this time. We've got Bing, you've got all sorts of different advertising platforms. But if your site goes down, then what happens? You got to go back and turn off all those ads. It's kind of a chaotic thing. But how do you fix? How do you bring it back? And
quick question, William. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot on this one, but you bring a huge small business issue to mind as I look at this slide. Are you very familiar with business interruption insurance,
yes.
Specifically online business interruption?
Yes.
Okay, that's one area. I don't know if you had planned to talk about that today. That's absolutely an area that I want to come back to, in a month.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to. That I've actually built a whole bunch of PowerPoint. I'll have to go back to some of my other slides that I did, and pull some data out of it because there were some great speakers that I had privilege to learn from, and each learning piece of my career has been mentored by someone that just, I mean, they were mentored themselves. They said, William, I'm going to give you the opportunity to learn, but it's your responsibility to actually learn it, and use it, right? So
Smart mentors are good, a great thing, William.
they are. I mean, and the neat piece is I've worked for some fantastic entrepreneurs throughout my entire career. Even when I was 13 years old, when I first worked for a amusement park, sweeping trash. But I learned how to move up the ladder to all the positions that I figured I wanted because that looked pretty fun.
Did you get to be IT director of that amusement park?
They didn't have IT at the time.
I'm joking because I'm sure they didn't have one.
We did have a beautiful record player that actually had a loudspeaker, and that's as far as technology as I think we really got. Everything else was mechanical, hydraulics. So let's go to, so again, having a plan, and do you have a plan? What happens when it does go down? And then the other thing is, what does it cost me if I go down? So put yourself in that same shoes. I have, a website. Everything is ready with my advertising and everything else, but my site just went down. What is my plan to turn off all my advertising and pause those so that basically if I'm spending, $1,000 a day or $10,000 a day on Google AdWords, if I'm down for 2 days, that's a lot of money lost. So we want to make sure that we're actually still spending the marketing budget properly at the same time as handling the hack with the your IT people, and keeping the process moving while you're mediating the risk of further downtime or having to send your employees home. That's an additional cost, right, David?
Yep.
I mean, when the company can't do anything, you can't work. Kind of like telephones. If the telephones went down, you're on the phone as the employer calling everybody and saying, "Don't come in today."
We got into this discussion yesterday as we were talking about just general business strategy, and one of the decisions the small business owner has to make is, am I an online company? Am I an offline company? Or am I a company that is both online and offline? And the challenges, particularly in technology, are different. You and I, because we are basically online, we live and die with what happens online. And if the system goes down, you and I go down with it. That's the decision that we've made, and there's nothing that we can do about it. So it's an important part of a company's strategic thinking to have maybe that backup plan. If you go down off online, maybe your backup plan is more of an online kind of approach, or reverse. Yes,
absolutely, and that brings fantastic discussion. I think, and that kind of brings us to the next kind of opportunity here is the next level. We've talked about servers. We've talked about a lot of different things with how people actually are vulnerable and how things can actually have a problem with downtime. But what I want to talk about next is something that most people do not pay attention to. But it's the simplest thing, and we hear it on the news all the time. And that is, for one, how can I protect myself is the topic here, but keeping your passwords safe. So my question is, are you one of those CEOs that use the easy password, kind of like the easy button? And when was the last time you changed your password? You'll actually see it's kind of scary, but you can actually go back in the history, and I coach on this type of portion with CEOs and executives because they have access levels with them for areas of technology that they probably shouldn't have. And my example with this would be, hackers love these guys. They love people that do not change their password, because you go back to the history and say, okay, the company started back in 98 or 2000, right? When they started having the passwords, and all of a sudden now it's 2015 coming up, and that password is still the same as they've had all the way through the years, and that same password generates through the entire profile of that user from the lifespan. So when they logged into their PlayStation and they logged into their favorite game, they're logging into Sony or they're logging into AE Sports, and now that username and password is the same one that now has access to any hacker on the web to get that data.
William, I hate to do this because you've really got me going here.
No, we're running out of time. So
I want you to talk. I want you to address that very last line that you have there because I think it's a really, really important concept. Have your computer geek only give you the access you need. You don't have it in big letters. You got some red in there, but that is a very, very important concept.
Well, especially if the actual CEO or executive has access to like the accounting server. So now, that simple password that we just explained goes right back to the accounting server, and he probably has full admin rights because he's the CEO. But does he need that? And I think that kind of goes back to what I've learned from a lot of my security mentors is being able to provide the access that person needs to get their job done.
Well, and there's all kinds of issues of trust that work into that formula.
Yes, and it's very hard for the actual CEO to give up the keys.
Right. Okay. Well, as I said, I apologize for doing this. So we're going to come back. There's going to be more discussion. Do you want to give us a 1, 2, 3, 4 point summary kind of thing, and we will make this. We will, if you want to. What we'll do is we will put this presentation into a showcase, and people will then have the ability to get into that presentation. And our next presenter will help me out on that because he's always helping me out on issues of Google and Google technology. William, thank you for your time. I apologize for the brevity, but you know what? You are in you're in the most complex, I think, aspects of what it is and how important certain concepts are to our business. And I've made the point that small business needs to embrace as much technology as they possibly can of the concepts, because that is the equalizing factor to businesses of any size. The technology is basically the same. It's how we apply that technology to our specific, unique businesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing is basically say, find yourself a good team. Find yourself a good team of experts. Make sure that they have the resources that they need to get the job done to protect your company. At the end of the day, as long as you're working and staying up with it, with your updates, especially with your updates, if you run a WordPress server, make sure those things are updated, because that just takes one simple vulnerability for that hackbot to get through.
Well,
and take you down.
I want to say thank you. I have a technology. Oh, and when I say I have, our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus community has as good a technology team as there is, and I'm happy and honored that you are half of that team with the kinds of things and the expertise that you do. I will be talking to you soon, and we're going to get you back involved in the book concept and what we're doing, because your knowledge is just, it is so vitally important, because if the technology is in place, a lot of times our businesses don't run, unfortunately, and maybe it's that backup disaster recovery plan. What happens, worst case scenario? How do we react in the worst case scenario? What do we do?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
that brings me to one last piece, and I'll add
Yep.
in there. But the actual team that I'm actually picking right now is actually getting away from my own virtual servers that I've spent a lot of money investing in security and technology, and I'm moving away to go to the Google Cloud. So the cloud platform is where I'm headed. And for everybody that wants to participate, they're giving away $300 in free credits. And basically, your hosting would normally it's costing me about $6 a month, but it deploys Joomla, it deploys WordPress, and it's ran by some of the top geeks at Google.
What a brilliant segue into Vivek's presentation. Wow. What a brilliant segue. You go, William.
And I
Well,
had no idea.
well, he knows as much about the Google Cloud and what's in the Google Cloud as anybody knows, and so it's a brilliant segue into into Vivek's discussion. Thank you, William. And if anybody anybody who happens to be watching or will see a recorded version of this HOA, or when the book comes out, the digital video book, if you have any questions, enter them into the stream, plus me on it, and I will get you answers. I will get you answers to your questions. Thank you, William. Vivek, what is happening in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, it's all good to go. We are, I mean, how shall I start?
Well, I'll set it up and let me tell you why I've asked you to contribute today, contribute to the book. The reason being is that I embrace as much Google technology as I possibly can, and the reason that I do is that it works for me. It helps me to accomplish my strategic business goals. And so I have to embrace it as much as possible. Now, as you well know, and anybody watching, I am not a technology geek by any stretch of the imagination. I understand basic concepts, but I know who the geeks are, and I know who to go to when I need to get assistance for what any challenge might be in my business. And I need to tell folks that in the last 3.5 months, you and I have done some unbelievable things and created, well, your expertise have created information that can cover, we've covered so many aspects of Google applications, and the interesting thing is when I ask you a question, and it might not be applicable to anything that we've discussed already, you say, okay, let's do a tutorial on it. So in the next 10 minutes, we do a tutorial, and you've got a whole playlist of tutorials, and they've been extremely helpful to me. I had to laugh, Vivek. Yesterday I asked you a question, and you scolded me and said, David, we did a tutorial on that 3 weeks ago. and the question that you were asking, the question I was asking was a little bit off the tutorial that we did, but I loved you. Typical teacher. David, I already taught you how to do that. Where were you when I was teaching you? So let's go into the Google Cloud, and you have a couple stories that you'd like to tell today, and we'll tell those stories, and then as I said to William, I'll have you come back very soon, and we'll take your stories to the next level.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I would, as usual, I would start with the why uh, as a question. I answer that question, and then I shall try to answer the why question with two short stories today. Um, of course, if you are expecting some Star Trek story, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you uh, down to earth present day stories. So sorry about that, but the first story is that of a busy businessman, and the second is that of a happy businessman. And when I explain the difference between the two stories, I hope the how and what questions would get answered. And at this point, I think I need to do a screen share and tell the story to make it easier for the viewers to see it. So let me do the screen share. Hopefully you have pinned me onto the main screen, David.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I hope all of you can see all the viewers can see the little cartoonish image that I'm showing.
Good morning, Tom.
I'm going to tell you a story and a little background information. John is a busy businessman and he is meeting Tom, a client. John says, "Good morning, Tom." And then as soon as he says that, John is startled when his phone starts ringing. John says, "My apologies. Hope it is all right if I answer my phone." Tom is obviously not happy that the meeting has just started and John's phone has already started ringing. As you all can imagine, John is not creating a good impression on him. What do you think Tom says? Naturally, he says, "Sure, go ahead." At the other end of the phone, it is Amy who asks, "Hello, is that John?" Amy says, "It's Amy here. I'm wondering if you have rescheduled our meeting." John says, "Good morning, Amy. Sorry, but I'm in a meeting now. Can we meet in 20 minutes, please?" Amy says, "I'm afraid not. You'll have to reschedule the meeting. May have been possible if only you had phoned me earlier. We have been waiting over an hour for you." John says, "Oh, so sorry." Now, you might have noticed that John was annoyed that his phone rang during a meeting, and that annoyance came through in his response. But it's actually John who is at fault here. John says, "I forgot to check my diary." Now, what opinion will Tom have? Tom thinks that John is unable to keep to his appointments and has bungled up appointments. What impression does this leave on Amy? Amy thinks, what a waste of time. Amy is wondering if John handles all customers in the same way. John then says, "Sorry, Tom. Apparently, I'm starting another hectic day." Tom is a bit annoyed. He says, "John, can we quickly go through the document you promised delivery today? This meeting is already running late, as you know." John says, I printed it yesterday, but seem to have misplaced it. Tom responds with, we need input from our engineering and marketing departments for the document. It would be difficult if only have a printed copy. Moreover, we expected it yesterday. John says, I'm terribly sorry. I wanted to go over it with you before I emailed it to you. Can I send it as an attachment to an email, please? Tom is thinking, so what are we doing here now? Because John isn't delivering the document. He's also late for the meeting. So what is the point of the meeting? However, he says, all right, John, for now, I'll let you email it by afternoon. But remember, it's already late. John says, thank you. I'll do it as soon as I reach my office. Have a good day, Tom. Tom is doing a bit of loud thinking here. Tom says, turns up late for a meeting, but then has completely forgotten another meeting. Hasn't yet delivered what was expected yesterday. Not at all reliable. Now, having apologized twice within a short period of time, John comes out of the meeting in a bad shape. John is thinking it's not even mid-morning and it's already turning out to be a terrible day. At this moment, John's phone rings again, and it is his wife, Sarah, this time. John says, oh, Sarah, darling. Sarah asks, John, have you forgotten it's our daughter's birthday today? John says, no, I haven't. Did I order the cake? I think I did. Sarah says, John, you always forget the most important things in the world. Are you sure you ordered the cake? I'll kill you if you didn't.
Oh, no.
Anyway, did you deliver the document to Tom? She asks. It was on your table last night, and I put it in your briefcase, thinking you would forget it otherwise. John says, oh, no. I searched all over my table this morning, but couldn't find it. Sarah says, so you didn't deliver it, though it was in your briefcase? John says, I didn't expect it to be in my briefcase because I didn't put it myself. Perfectly logical, but Sarah says, honey, sometimes you are so silly. I think I'll better check with bakers about the cake. John says, what a terrible day. Sarah says, don't take it too hard on yourself, John. Take care. See you later. Love you. Bye.
I'm going to kill you if you forgot to order the cake.
That is the first story. Now, let me come out of this screen share for a few minutes. Let's consider what we just saw. John uses all modern devices which are supposed to solve a specific problem. Mobile phone to make calls, email to send messages. He may have other devices such as an iPad and so on. But the devices work in isolation. Each device works independent of the other, which means he is the only common element. Everything depends on him. The result of this is solution for one problem becomes a new problem on its own. He therefore suffers from what I call diarrhea. For example, his phone rings when he does not want it to ring. He gets busy in discussion but forgets to check his old-fashioned pen on paper diary. This is a common situation where most of us have a phone which has computing power far more superior to what was used to put a man on the moon, and yet many of us fail to use it effectively. Now let's see how simple life can be in the next story. I would like to again do a screen share. So let me do that. Again, hopefully you have pinned me on screen, David.
Yeah.
The story starts when John meets Tom. Look at how John looks now. A bit more professional, but anyway. John says, "Good morning, Tom. How are you today?" Tom says, "Good morning, John. I'm fine, thank you." John says, "I just wanted to make sure that you received the Google Docs link I sent you in my email. Hope it is all good." Audience may notice that rather than go over the document with Tom in person, John has actually already shared the document, and John does not actually need to meet Tom, but he is meeting him just to make sure that everything is all right. Tom says, "Yes, indeed. Our engineering and marketing have already done a lot of work on it. Thank you for checking status." John says, "If everything is fine, let me not waste any more of your time. It has been a pleasure doing business with you." Tom is impressed by how John has handled the business. He thinks that it is nice of John to check status, which shows that he cares about his customers. So John has concluded that meeting in a very professional manner, and he has come out of the meeting, and now he says, "A pop-up message on my phone reminds me that I have a meeting with Amy. Good that we moved the meeting to a time convenient for both of us. Let me send her a text message saying I am on my way." John has now reached Amy's office in time, and he says, "Good morning, Amy." Amy says, "Good morning, John." Now John says, "Hope you got my text message and hopefully you didn't have to wait for long." Amy says, "Yes, it was indeed nice of you to send a text message and you are on time. I have a couple of questions about your product. Hope you can answer them." John says, "Yes, as we use Google Apps, I can show you photos and documents on my iPad. And as you can imagine, with such a good start, the meeting goes very well." Having concluded both the meetings very well, John now calls up his wife. John says, "Sarah, darling, it's me." Sarah says, "Hi, honey." John asks, "Has the birthday cake arrived yet?" Sarah says, "Yes, indeed. The cake looks gorgeous." John says, "My phone calendar had reminded me last week to order it." Sarah asks, "Honey, how was your morning?" John says, "Darling, meeting with Tom went very well. Amy was impressed with what we can provide when I showed her documents and photos on my iPad. I also fixed the next meeting using my iPad. Fingers crossed, In the next meeting, we sign the contract. Sarah says, that's brilliant. Come home quickly. Our daughter's birthday would indeed be a happy one for all of us. Now, that was the second story. Now, let me come out of screen share. What is the difference between the two stories, apart from the second one being a happy story? In the second one, John is using the technology he already has more effectively by integrating them seamlessly. Let me explain. He is using pop-up messages on his phone to remind him of upcoming meetings. He is able to collaborate with his clients more effectively. He's using the 21st century method for document collaboration. Email, calendar, documents, all using mobile devices such as mobile cell phone, iPad, etc., etc. So that is actually the end of my presentation. I believe you do have a lot of questions, David.
Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get them today, but I would like to set up with you where we can come back and deal with a bunch of questions. Actually, I'd like to do that and attach it, make it a part of the original release of the book, which is coming out in January. So if the two of you can schedule some one-on-one time with me this time, and we'll go through some questions, and we'll give some really good answers that folks can not only, well, essentially fix what didn't work as well as it should work in 2014, and fix it to make sure that it does work well in 2015. So I will get in touch with both of you, and we will, as I said, we'll have one-on-one discussions at that point. And I want to thank you for taking your time today. You set the stage very, very well for defining what the major objectives are, what is it that we need to be thinking about, and then in our next session we will drill down and give the folks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points, and just a checklist of things that that's what we'll do. We will create a checklist. That is a real valuable kind of tool, and the folks will be able to get that and just check it off and say, wow, I got a lot of work to do. Wow, I need to call William Rock. Wow, I need to call Vivek to help me on my checklist. Make sure you make good checklists, guys.
Well, the other fun part that brings up with your story is the technology that he used in that second story is free.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to use that technology, those reminders and alerts and calendars, right?
Well, interesting enough, William, I asked a question yesterday of somebody, and it was from a pure marketing perspective, and that's my area of expertise. But it was part of the answer. Well, the answer really rested in the technology world, and you didn't even know that because you weren't a party to the conversation. But the comment that you made earlier is very appropriate to a question that I asked yesterday. So thank you for validating the answer that I got yesterday.
One point, William, all what I talked about is actually available free, but and once you start using it's all very simple and it works, and you would then start thinking, why didn't I do this before? But you do that only after you start using it.
Well,
until you do that, and to actually to change our ways of doing things, often it takes. William, you are a technology geek. Similarly, I am too. So for us, it looks so easy to do, but
William brought it up in what he was talking about very, very clearly, that we don't have disaster recovery plans in place, and
that's so very obvious. But we don't.
And when we get hit with a disaster, and we say, why didn't I have a disaster recovery plan in place? That's the typical standard answer. Okay,
I have a Google phone.
I hate to cut this discussion short, but we have to. But I will be contacting each of you to schedule one-on-one sessions to delve deeper into the concepts that you presented today. And I want to thank each of you for taking time in different time zones to make this all happen. William, you had to get up early, and Vivek is ready to take off for the rest of the day. So.
It works out. We've always seemed to figure out the time zone thing, and I've missed a few of his previous shows, but I think I have attended most of those, and I've learned so much from being on your show, David, that there's always something else, some entrepreneur out there, some expert has, and that I can learn from, and you deliver it. You just, with your skills and talents and the way you connect people, just amazes me.
Well, and that's what I thank you for that comment. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. But that's the beauty of this Google world that we live in. I mean, all of us met here on Google, and had it not been for that platform, we probably never would have met.
Correct.
It's just the way things go. But that's the beauty of employing Google technology, which is not only great technology, but if we want to get recognized by Google, the more Google technology we use, the more they're going to recognize us. So they understand that, and that's the bottom line, what they are all about, and that's why they do the things that they do. So, gentlemen, thank you. I'll be talking to you soon, and I want to thank anybody who is watching this, whatever, in its live fashion, its recorded fashion. I am sure that you have lots of questions, and so make sure that you ask the question, and ask me directly, and I will get it to the appropriate individual, and that's what we're here for, to collaborate. That's what our community is all about, and this digital video book that I'm facilitating is the most unbelievable collaboration of talent, of minds, of information, and thank you two guys for being a part of the team and making it a lot of fun, and I know we are bringing value to this world that we live in. My name is SmallBizDavid, and I look forward to seeing you the next time, which may very well be the best time.